It is deadline day. We have an absolute blockbuster of a transfer, but it's not in football. The 7-time Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton is to join Ferrari for the 2025 season.
Yes, good morning. Stunning breaking news. Our Formula One reporter Craig Slater will be here very shortly to talk us through exactly what is going on.
Meanwhile, just 12 hours and counting until the football transfer window closes. As you can see, we're joined by Jody and Jody, which is a tongue twister, which I'm very pleased to say this morning. And we're going to be speaking to Phil Jagielka and Rob Earnshaw this hour.
Yeah, really busy hour to come. As ever here on Deadline Day, we'll be taking you across the country as well, speaking to all of our reporters who are live with Premier League clubs. Plus, if we need to, we can go to Sky in Germany and Sky Italy as well with any big news on the continent. Stay with us.
Fulham and Wolves want Armando Broja, but will he actually make a move today? We'll bring you the latest.
And will Aston Villa be doing any business today? We're still waiting on one deal to be confirmed. Will any more follow?
But we start with massive transfer news this deadline day, not in football, but in Formula One. Lewis Hamilton will leave Mercedes and join Ferrari for the 2025 season. Well, Hamilton started his career at McLaren, winning his first world title back in 2008. He joined Mercedes in 2013, where he enjoyed huge success, winning 6 more world championships in just 7 years. That run of dominance has ended in recent years, hasn't it? But he narrowly missed out on that title in 2021 in dramatic circumstances. Since then, Max Verstappen and Red Bull have been the dominant force. Hamilton signed a 2-year contract extension with Mercedes back in 2023 and has now decided he will move to Ferrari in 2025. Well, prior to last season and signing that contract extension in the summer, Hamilton spoke about his hopes for the 2023 campaign, a campaign in which he finished 2 places and 341 points off of eventual champion Verstappen.
I expect us as a team to show up better prepared than we did this year. I expect us to show up with a better car or package. I fully expect we will be the best that we've ever been in terms of how we arrive. I hope the car is of the quality that all the personnel deserve, and I hope that we're fighting for a championship.
This is a huge coup for Ferrari, isn't it? Hamilton has the most wins in F1 history. He's currently 12 ahead of Michael Schumacher, but he hasn't won a race since the 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And the 39-year-old is level with Schumacher for most F1 titles as well. He won his 7th title back in 2020, went so close to that 8th as well. He also leads the way for most poles won, once again ahead of Schumacher. Our F1 reporter Craig Slater will join us on set a little later this hour for much more on this huge story. You won't want to miss that. Craig will have all of the information for us shortly. But for now, let's get back to some football news. Let's go to Chelsea, because Armando Brer was an unused star at Anfield last night as Chelsea were thumped 4-1 by Liverpool. Could then that be a sign that he's on the move today? Wolves are one of the clubs interested. We'll be live to Daniel Kahn there shortly. But first, let's head to Paul Gilmore, who's at Stamford Bridge for us. Paul, Brer has been a name that has been mentioned a lot this month. Could he then be on his way out of Chelsea late in this window?
It is a possibility today. Armando Brer could move on to either Fulham, Wolves, or who knows, even elsewhere. But let's just bring you up to speed on this, because you will remember there was a fee put on Brer earlier in the window. Chelsea haven't been able to get quite a sizable permanent transfer fee for him. So what we're hearing today, and the current state of play, is that Chelsea are now willing to consider a straight loan. It wouldn't include necessarily an option or obligation. If it does, again, it would have to be for a fee that meets Chelsea's requirements. But if not, quite happy doing a loan maybe him come back in the summer and things are reassessed then ahead of a permanent move in the summer. But what a loan move would do, a straight loan move would do today, is it would mean a kind of sizable loan fee in the region. It's thought of £5 million, and that, of course, that's the interesting point, because will clubs stump up that kind of cash in a time when there's not much cash flying about in this January transfer window? So, yeah, Fulham and Wolves are the clubs that have been interested, the Premier League clubs interested in Broja, and that's the situation that, as things stand. It would be interesting to just find out what Wolves' position is on that, and whether they would be willing to pay that loan fee for what, I guess, 4 months of the season left, only for Broja to come back here. But that's what maybe would put clubs off at the moment. But certainly he is available for loan before tonight's deadline.
OK, Paul, before we go to Wolves and Dan, let's get some breaking news with Hayley.
Second leg.
OK, so this is a done deal. Aston Villa announcing the signing of Morgan Rogers from Middlesbrough.
Yeah, the 21-year-old has joined Villa, undisclosed fee. He's been a regular at youth international level. He signed for Borough last summer. 7 goals and 8 assists to his name so far, recently scoring against Chelsea in the Carabao Cup semi-final.
OK, some big breaking news there from the Premier League. Let's, as promised, get the Wolves' perspective now with Daniel Kahn. Daniel, we've been talking about Armando Broja there, and Paul also mentioned that big price tag that was put on him. Can Wolves get close to that, do you think?
Yeah, morning, Jasper. Well, we know Wolves are in the market for a number 9 in this window, and Armando Broja is someone they're interested in. They had a straight loan offer rejected by Chelsea earlier this week, and as Paul mentioned there's now that extra loan fee in the region of £5 million attached to any loan deal that Chelsea may entertain today. So from the Wolves side of things, they certainly won't be doing any sort of loan with that fee attached as we speak, and that's because Wolves are very conscious of profit and sustainability rules, and they're not going to put anything in jeopardy in terms of that going forward. And we saw that happen overnight with Wolves pulling out of negotiations with Brazilian side Corinthians for a deal for Yuri Alberto, the Brazilian striker. It looked like a deal was agreed in principle, but Wolves ended up pulling out of that because of the fees being demanded by the players' agents. So definitely someone Wolves are interested in. I guess there's the question now about what happens. Do Wolves continue to negotiate with Chelsea around that loan fee, and can they make something happen, or do they move on to other targets? Well, Wolves' search for a striker continues on deadline day.
OK, Daniel, thank you very much. Right, we wait to see developments on Armando Broja throughout the day then. But for now, we have a special guest for you this morning, a man who has 40 caps for England to his name. Let's head up to our bureau in the northwest now, where our guest is joined by our senior reporter, Tim Thornton. Good morning to you, Tim.
Yeah, good morning to you. We've got, as you mentioned, Amando's played over 40 times for England. Former England captain.
I don't know about that.
Phil Jagielka alongside us. We've just been talking Armando Broja there. Potential move away from Chelsea. Would he be a good fit for Fulham?
I think so. I think obviously they've just had an injury, dealt with it with the main striker up front, Jimenez. So he's not proven. I've heard a lot of great things about him, but I'm still waiting, for him to drop. I think he's in a similar bracket to sort of Núñez at Liverpool. He's got a lot of potential, a lot of power, a lot of pace, but sometimes potentially lets himself down in front of goal. But if Fulham can get the right deal, I'm hearing some crazy numbers, but if they get the right deal, they'll be quite happy.
Let's talk about some of your former clubs. First of all, Everton, obviously very difficult window for them, difficult time at the moment. The appeal is going on against the 10-point deduction into the bottom 3. How concerned are you?
Well, you have to be. Obviously, the 10 points. The boys did fantastic to get themselves up and out of the relegation and stay above it. But unfortunately, with obviously Everton getting the 10 points, it's probably galvanised a couple of the teams below and realising that the gap's not going to be as big as maybe it should be. So it's been difficult. Luton, you've got to take your hats off. They've hit a hot run of form. Everton, it was still a good point away at Fulham. I think you can't get too carried away and try and chase and try and win every game. It's all about how many points you end up at the end of the season with. Hopefully the appeal goes really well and we'll have more points than we've got now. But no, it's difficult. It's a tough, bitter pill to swallow. But I'm sure it'll all come out in due course.
One young player attracting a lot of interest at Everton is Jared Branthwaite. we don't expect him to move in this window, but just how highly do you rate him?
Yeah, I think everyone does. I think that everyone's seen him. He obviously went out to PSV, probably got away from a bit of the noise and a bit of the traffic from last season. Obviously, it was a difficult season as well. And found his feet. He found a hard, tough league. I think PSV were desperate to keep hold of him, which gives you a sign of how well he did. Obviously, went to the Euros with the under-21s, did well again. I've spoke to Jolie, and he was obviously part of the camp. He of a similar play, obviously left-sided at centre-half. He gave him a glowing reference, and I think it's definitely been someone to watch this season. It's probably difficult for an Evertonian to watch him do so well, because obviously with the club's financial problems at the moment, you imagine if a big bid does come in. I don't see something coming in obviously today, but I think in the future it's going to be a tough one to turn down.
Could he play for a top 6 club, potentially England in the future?
I think so, but at the same extent, 20, 40, 50 games don't make you a top-class player yet. I think he's still finding his feet. I think he's in the right place to do so. Sometimes you get lost if you go to a big club and you're in and out of the team. At the moment, he is one of the first names down on the team sheet, which will be good for him, good for his confidence and good for his development. So I think obviously at the moment he's at the right place. It'd be nice for Everton to move forward, him to stay there, move into the new stadium and play for many years. But we don't know what's around the corner for Everton, and so at the moment it's just about him doing the right things on the pitch at the moment.
On transfer deadline day, Sheffield United and other of your former clubs are looking for a right-footed central defender. The last time that Chris Wilder went looking for a central defender when Sheffield United were in the Premier League, he signed you. Yeah,
I've just checked my phone now. He's not bothered to call me this time. But no, it's a tough situation again. They need to start winning. They're putting in better performances, and you can see the team's doing better. But it's all about points at the end of the day. And I think with the players they've lost, the importance of the players they've lost, especially at the back with obviously Bash and Eags, the manager would like more options at centre-half. I think it is, like you say, they've got 2 left-footed ones at the moment, so I think it would be a right-sided one, and they've been linked with a few. But the clock's ticking, and same again, finances. Do you get someone on loan? Does someone want to come permanently when they're not sure exactly what division Sheffield will be in next season? So there's plenty of juggling to be done there, and we'll all have our eyes glued to the TV.
Harry Souttar at Leicester, one name that has been linked. We understand that won't be happening. Joe Worrell at Nottingham Forest, and a couple of players that you will know well, Ben Godfrey at Everton and Mason Holgate, have also been linked, all players of interest to Sheffield United.
Yeah, well, I think obviously I played with Mace. I know Mace well. He's gone to Southampton to get some game time, and it's not figured out well for him there. So I think he'd be desperate to get back to play, and if obviously Sheffield United and Chris Wilder can offer him that, and Everton and Sheffield can do a deal, I believe there's a slight issue because obviously they're in a similar predicament at the bottom end of the table, which might hinder the deal. But no, Joe Worrell again, club captain, a good influence to bring to Sheffield at this time. But I'm sure, like I say, the clubs, especially down towards the bottom, will be trying to wheel and deal as much as they can. But it's going to be a tough window.
Just finally, is it a bit strange for you, deadline day, and you're not thinking about where you might be moving? It's the first time you won't have been involved as a player.
Yeah, to be fair, I didn't move too much, so it's not been too bad. But I think as a player, you do keep an eye out. You keep an eye out for friends. You keep an eye out for ex-colleagues and for stuff like that. So there'll be plenty of the lads, plenty of the footballers around the country that know they're not going anywhere, but we'll be keeping their eyes out for who does what.
And Chris Wilder, we know he's looking for a central defender, but we can tell him officially that you are retired. You won't be going back on that, and you're not available.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Phil Jagielka, not available, but Sheffield United's pursuit of a defender goes on. We'll keep you updated throughout the day.
Tim, Phil, thank you very much.
OK, plenty still to come. We're going to scour the capital next. We're going to talk West Ham, Arsenal, Chelsea with Joby and Jody. And it's not just transfers, there's some top tungsten action as well. Still to come before midday.
Welcome back to Sky Sports News here on deadline day. Early this hour, we broke the news that Aston Villa finalised the signing of Morgan Rogers from Middlesbrough. Amber Sandhu has the full details on this deal for us. Amber, over to you.
Yeah, good morning. Morgan Rogers is set to join Aston Villa on a 5.5-year deal until 2029. It seems like the Middlesbrough midfielder has been a priority target for Villa after a lot of to and fro and rejected bids. They have set a deal for an initial £8 million fee, which could be worth up to £16 million if all the add-ons are met. Now, what do we know about the 21-year-old? Well, he's no stranger to the Midlands. He started his career at West Bromwich Albion Youth Academy, made his professional debut in Manchester City in the summer of 2019 and has played for Blackpool, Bournemouth and Lincoln City on loan, so plenty of experience under his belt. And then he signed for Championship side Middlesbrough last year, where he's been the leading goal scorer in the Carabao Cup, which I think makes him an excellent addition to a side like Aston Villa. He'll be competing on that front line with Leon Bailey and Moussa Diaby, but Rogers has the versatility and ability to play on both sides of the wing. He could be a great replacement for the likes of John Duran, who there was a lot of uncertainty about whether he was going to stay. He will remain at the club, will be out until April with an injury. So I think he'll be an exciting prospect for Villa. Other names in the mix on today's deadline day: Australian goalkeeper as well, Joel Gauci, currently playing at Adelaide United, but is out in Qatar on Asia Cup duties. Reports that he's had his medical in Qatar and that they're in the paperwork stage of that deal, hopefully sealing it by tonight.
Hey, Amber, big news this morning from Villa. Thank you.
OK, so there we go. We've got Jody and Joby. Reflection on that. He is officially now an Aston Villa player. They've got a great deal for the forward, or actually is it Middlesbrough that have got a good deal out of this one? They'd have loved to have kept him, but maybe if they were challenging in a different manner.
Yeah, this one came as a little bit of a surprise to me, I've got to say. I think Middlesbrough have done absolutely brilliantly out of the deal. I think they paid in the region of £1 million to £1.5 million. He's only been there 6 months, so I think from their point of view it's probably an offer that once it got to the level that we're talking about, obviously 8 million up front we're hearing and potentially up to 15, I think it's the type of deal that they certainly can't refuse. I think Michael Carrick will be a little bit frustrated. He certainly has come into form the last month or so, but I think for Aston Villa's point of view it's probably one for the future, and again they're buying potential, I would say, rather than maybe someone who's actually had an outstanding start to this season.
Yeah, for a player making that move, he went West Brom to Manchester City. And when you were coaching at that level, were Manchester, because you won a quadruple, didn't you, I think? Were Manchester City your main rivals? Because they're producing a lot of really good, exciting young players now.
Yeah, the Manchester City Academy is excellent. Invested a lot of money in it, but was probably needed at the time. And now they're starting to see a lot of the fruits of their labour. It's what you want from your academy, is not just only to produce players that can maybe play in your first team, because a lot of them won't. But what you do want to do is the ones that maybe don't make the first team, you want them to be able to go on and get a career or be successful. And we've seen plenty of instances of people having to leave maybe the clubs that they weren't maybe quite good enough at that time to get in the first team, go away, and then you see certain clubs trying to buy them back a few years later. So testament to West Bromwich Albion as well, and Man City. But when you get opportunities to go to the Premier League, it's hard to turn down. And I think Michael Carrick deserves a little bit of credit as well there, that he's got another bit of money through the door for another attacking player. I know we had Akpom that went from Borough in the summer, who performed at an extremely high level for Michael. So credit to Middlesbrough, and like Joby said, it could be a good deal for both clubs.
Yeah. OK, more from Jody and Joby to come. Where are we going now?
Rob, we're going to go to West Ham. Any business for them today? They might have to get it done earlier than the other clubs, because they're actually hosting Bournemouth at the London Stadium tonight in the Premier League. James Savundra is there for us already, though. Very good morning to you, James. With that game coming up later this evening, then, any late moves for West Ham, do you think?
Good morning, Jasper. Well, as things stand, Calvin Phillips remains the only addition in this January window, but we know time is now ticking for West Ham to bring in a wide forward. That has been a priority for them in this window, signing a winger. It's been problematic, the deals to try and bring Jota and Ibrahim Osman to the football club in the last few days. So as things stand here, around 11:20 a.m. in the morning outside the London Stadium, it's looking that it's more likely there'll be outgoings than incomings. We know that Lyon have agreed a deal with West Ham to sign Said Benrahma. It's a loan with an obligation to buy at the fee of more than £15 million. And Lyon had been waiting on Benrahma's final decision after discussing personal terms with him about whether he wanted to move to France or not. So we wait to see what happens there. Pablo Fornals, he's been the interest of Real Betis, teaming up potentially with his old manager at West Ham, Manuel Pellegrini. Now, we understand they need to improve upon their initial offer if West Ham are to agree to sanction that move. So as things stand, that move for Benrahma to Lyon seems slightly more advanced than Pablo Fornals moving back to Spain. We wait to see what happens later today. West Ham taking on Bournemouth at 7:30 p.m. We wait to see if Calvin Phillips makes his debut, if there'll be any incomings or more likely outgoings for that deadline at 11 o'clock this evening.
OK, James, thank you. Now, Arsenal have yet to make a signing during this window. They did, though, of course, spend big in the last summer, didn't they? Let's head to Gail Davis at the Emirates Stadium for us. Gail, the Arsenal fans would love a striker. Do you think you'll bring them any good news today?
Oh, I've stood here on transfer deadline days and they've signed the likes of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Trossard and Jorginho last year. But I don't think that's going to be the case today. And it's not, I think, for the want of trying, but they've had to have a pretty cautious transfer window. Mikel Arteta said himself in the build-up to the Forest game, we are fighting for the title with one of the thinnest squads in the league. He said we have been, over the last 6 weeks, exposed in certain positions. And they were looking to do business, but it had to be at the right player at the right price, and that price is absolutely key. Profit and sustainability, we know it's been in such sharp focus, hasn't it, over the past few months. And Arsenal spent £208 million this summer. The likes of Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, Yuri Timber coming in. Unfortunately for him, we've barely seen him because of an ACL operation, an injury, hoping that he will be back before the end of the season. And then, of course, David Brer arrived on loan with a view to a permanent move, just to spread the costs out, which gives you a sense of where the finances are and how close they are to kind of that big line that the clubs are working towards. And that's why Edu and Arteta will focus again on the summer, and it will be a case of getting rid of some of those squad players and looking to strengthen in certain areas. I mean, we talk so much, the fans are desperate for an out-and-out striker. That's certainly one of those positions. They're a little bit short at the back, as I say, Timber due back. And then you look at some of those squad players, so Mohamed El Neni out of contract, Jorginho, one of those squad players that might be moved on. The only exit that is still a possibility, and it's a vague possibility, earlier in the window, Cedric Suarez was reportedly moving to Galatasaray. I'm not sure that's going to happen today. But those are the sort of players they may look to move on, and there'll be another rebuild this summer as they look to try and win the title. Bit noisy here this morning. Grass is being mowed because, of course, there is a huge Premier League game at the weekend. And I think Arsenal, after last night, know that it's got a little bit of work to do, haven't they, before they face Liverpool on Sunday?
Yeah, you know it's quiet when the most exciting bit of news is the grass being mown, Gail. Thank you very much.
But let's bring the guys in. As Gail was saying, they're desperate for an out-and-out striker. Is that how you see it? Especially off the back of seeing how many chances that they have. They just can't quite manage to convert.
Yeah, and it still amazes me that we're sitting here talking about it when you speak about Arsenal needing that centre-forward, when you look what they've spent in the summer. I think they obviously made a huge commitment financially on Kai Havertz, and then again, Declan Rice, which has been a fantastic signing, yes, but I think that's the one you do first and foremost. He's made a big difference. I look at the others, David Raya, with that money potentially to come again in the summer because it was a loan initially. Have those signings really improved Arsenal to the point that a centre-forward would have done, because we seem to be going round in circles, and they are desperate for another centre-forward.
Kai Havertz is an interesting one that you mentioned there. I think 65 million with add-ons Arsenal paid, which is a big chunk, especially now we're in this profit and sustainability world that we live in here. You were at Chelsea when he came in. I mean, he scored a Champions League winner, so there's a footballer in there. Is the problem working out exactly what he is, and what Arsenal needed, really?
Yeah, I mean, only the manager can tell you if he's what they needed. I mean, for me, he didn't quite find his feet at Chelsea. I think his inconsistency was a bit of a problem, whilst then looking at maybe what is his best position. And I think nothing's really changed when you look at Arsenal. I mean, apart from the fact that he's performing in or playing for a team that are performing at a higher level than us this year. I think the same sort of questions are maybe being asked. But as far as the striker is concerned, I mean, I'm not sure whether they was maybe thinking that he could be a backup number 9 like he was at times for Chelsea. But I think Arsenal need a 9, but I'm just not too sure whether it's someone that would replace Jesus, because for me, I still think he's a top player, but they maybe need someone that can maybe bridge the gap that when he's not playing. I know they think that that's what Nketiah's for, and he's done well when he's come on, but I think if you're fighting for leagues, you maybe need another body up top.
Right, tell you what, the 7-time Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton is to join Ferrari for the 2025 season. That is the biggest deal that has been done on this deadline day so far, and we have Craig Slater with us for more on that to come.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing Craig's thoughts on that. We'll also, of course, keep you right up to date with all of the football news. A special guest coming up for you very soon here on Sky Sports News.
Now, welcome back to Transfer Deadline Day. Moves don't get much bigger than this. Lewis Hamilton will join Ferrari for the 2025 season. I didn't think when I woke up this morning where the biggest transfer was going to be Lewis Hamilton, but there we go. Strange times we live in. As you can see, Craig Slater has
interrupted my tea and toast this morning, watching Deadline Day on Sports News.
He's so inconsiderate.
Phone starts going.
Yeah, he's so inconsiderate, that Lewis, isn't he? Doing it on today. But there we go. Right. Tell us all about this. He only signed a 2-year contract last summer, so when are we going to get official confirmation of this?
OK, so listen, we have heard nothing officially, only no comment from both Ferrari and Mercedes. I've been in touch with both teams via official channels today, but multiple senior sources within Formula One have explained to me that this is a done deal already. And we're talking about team principals here who I've dealt with directly and other senior leadership figures from within the sport. I am absolutely confident this is going ahead. What I also know is that Mercedes staff have been summoned to a meeting at Brackley at 2 o'clock this afternoon, where I understand they will be informed that Lewis Hamilton will be leaving them at the end of this season and joining Ferrari for the 2025 season. So the expectation is we'll get some kind of official announcement by the end of play today. That's what I'm waiting on.
I've got so many questions, but is this a gamble for Hamilton? And what does it say more about? Mercedes or Ferrari?
Yeah, he's 39 years old now, Hayley. This is maybe the last opportunity for him to drive for Ferrari. He has previously talked about being happy to finish his career at Mercedes, with whom he has achieved so much. He says that his idol Ayrton Senna never drove for Ferrari, and therefore you can have an iconic career without driving for them. Is it a gamble in pure racing terms? Well, he's had 2 winless years. He has seen Red Bull sweep all before them. He has another opportunity this year with Mercedes, if they've got the car right over the winter, to maybe do something. Then in 2025, he will be at Ferrari, who have been nip and tuck, I think you have to say, with Mercedes over this previous period, but a good distance behind Red Bull. Surely the expectation must be that Lewis Hamilton is not just going to do 1 year at Ferrari. He's almost certainly agreed to at least 1 plus an option of a further year, which would take us into 2026. New engine regulations come in then. This is the gamble aspect, I think, because Mercedes have proved themselves the best at making a Formula One engine. My expectation was Lewis says if he doesn't get it in the next year, 2 years, maybe the last gamble for him would be to stay at Mercedes till 2026, when Red Bull will probably suffer with the new engine rules. Ferrari also have a track record of good engine development, so maybe on that score it's a kind of calculated risk he's taking. Let's see what the various parties have to say about this later today, but maybe there's more to this than just pure competition. We know with Lewis Hamilton it's about what he achieves off track as well as on track. Mercedes have been a magnificent platform and partners with him for lots of really important initiatives. During the Black Lives Matter campaign, remember, they changed their car from silver to black. They began the Ignite programme to sponsor underrepresented groups within engineering programmes and so on, and to make the Formula One paddock a much more diverse place. Ferrari also has this international platform. They're renowned around the world. They're a truly global brand. Maybe Ferrari and John Elkann, its chairman, have sold Lewis Hamilton this vision of, we know what you do off the track. If you do it with us, it can be even more powerful.
Yeah, because from what you were saying, when you were saying calculated risk, it actually sounded, it was more the heartstrings pulling this move. And the idea, everyone in F1, if you're even a casual fan of Formula One, Ferrari just adds that little extra.
Well, it does. I mean, it's so hard to finish a sporting career. You're looking at Cristiano Ronaldo at the moment, when or Lionel Messi has had the World Cup to maybe top it all off with. But how difficult is it to exit the stage when you've had this glittering career at the very top? What does Lewis Hamilton do to top off this masterpiece? Certainly a couple of years in red, following in the heels of Michael Schumacher. Could he maybe win the 8th world title? Schumacher won 5 of his 7 with Ferrari. That would really top it off.
Well, Hamilton will drive alongside Charles Leclerc at Ferrari, and this is what he had to say last June about being a future possible teammate of Hamilton's.
We are in Formula One and we love to be fighting against the best, but that's not to say that my teammate is not fast. Carlos is an extremely fast driver, but yeah, considering that, I mean, I'm not the person who makes the choices, so yeah, let's see.
Would you welcome Lewis?
If I say yes, I imagine it being the title of every newspaper, but I mean, Lewis is such an incredible driver, has achieved so much in the sport, so I think anybody on the grid will love to have Lewis as a teammate.
Yeah, how do we think he's really going to feel, and how do you actually see the Hamilton-Leclerc dynamic actually working?
It's a really interesting one. We were, I suppose, a bit downcast, and I was even sharing some texts with Martin Brundle this morning on this, before this news broke, that the big drivers, the sort of big beasts of Formula One, were all at different teams. So you don't get that tension when they're driving in the same equipment. This is typical of Lewis Hamilton, I have to say. Never been afraid of a challenge. Comes into F1 with Fernando Alonso as his teammate, gets a result against him, changes teams to a kind of upstart team that hadn't done very much in Mercedes, going in against Nico Rosberg, very good operator, gets the better of him, happy to take on George Russell, one of the best of the young prospects in F1, and now this, joining Ferrari, where Leclerc is ensconced there. Clearly, Ferrari had identified him as their priority. That's why they'd signed him up rather than Carlos Sainz, who he's currently partnering. He is managed by Nicolas Todt, who's the son of Jean Todt, a legendary Ferrari team principal. So Lewis, you would say, yeah, this is a big challenge for him. Will he be 40, in his 41st year, going up against, you know, one of the quickest young drivers in the world. Be a great scalp for Leclerc to take if he could outscore him over the course of the year. But yeah, you would think the amount of money that Ferrari are doubtless paying Lewis Hamilton, the fact that he has the global following as well, he's only going to get surely equal treatment with Leclerc, and what a story it would be if he could bring the championship to Ferrari.
Yeah, because your biggest rival, sometimes first and foremost in Formula One, is your teammate.
All the time.
Oh, yeah. OK, knock-on effect, domino, just like in the transfer window.
Yeah.
Who replaces Hamilton at Mercedes, then?
Yeah. That's harder to see. But what I think it is worth mentioning here is that this perhaps explains why McLaren signed up Lando Norris a couple of weeks ago to a longer-term deal, and why Ferrari signed Leclerc up as well. Because I think Ferrari, as soon as they knew they were getting Hamilton, and by the way, my understanding is this courtship has been going on for some months. It's not a sudden thing, and John Elkann, the chairman, very big hitter, very much at the centre of it and the driving force in terms of bringing Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari, which is interesting, although team principal Fred Vasseur is someone Lewis knows from junior days, so there's no potential friction there. It's not like the chairman has signed someone over the manager's back that you sometimes get in football. This isn't like that, but the other teams have been aware that their prize assets might be a target for Mercedes, I think, because they got wind of the fact that Lewis was maybe going. So that explains the Norris deal, maybe the Leclerc deal as well. Hard to see who Mercedes promote. Probably good news this for George Russell. He'll become #1 within the team. I mean, it's young. Fred Vesti is their junior driver. He's not ready for Formula One. They've got Mick Schumacher as their reserve driver, who didn't have a great start to his F1 career. Might he be a stopgap? Alex Albon, to me, would be the kind of the heavyweight signing for Mercedes to replace Hamilton with. He's at Williams, who are bossed by James Vowles, who was Mercedes' chief strategist, so there are links there. But yeah, this could certainly will create a ripple effect. It's going to be really interesting next year with Lewis knowing he's leaving Mercedes. How did the team deal with that? Carlos Sainz at Ferrari, what does he owe them? They've replaced them with with Lewis Hamilton, it's going to create a lot of storylines next year.
Yeah, so many knock-on effects to this. Yeah, what is that going to be like next season? We'll get plenty more from you to come. You're going to be back with us.
It's what F1 needed, this.
It is.
It really is what F1 needed.
And thankfully, we've needed you in here to explain it all, and you're going to stay here. You'll be back at 12 o'clock. Of course, this was the news that we broke to you just a short time ago. Official confirmation we are waiting for, and there's going to be that discussion as well at 2 o'clock in the news conference. I'm sure you're going to learn what will come of that with all the Mercedes staff who are gathered. But we're still here, of course, on top of all the football deals as well.
Hopefully.
Yeah, speaking of football news, we'll be hearing from a man who made a deadline day move himself. We'll find out what it's like to be the man in the middle. Welcome back to Deadline Day. Let's speak live now to a man who knows what it's like to actually make the move on Deadline Day. It's former Nottingham Forest striker Robert Anshaw joins us. So, Rob, always great to speak to you. Just said it there then. You made a move yourself on Deadline Day, and it was a pretty late move in the day as well. What was that like as a player?
Well, let me take you back. It's January 2006, January 31st, 2006. I am just moving from West Brom to Norwich City at the time. And Norwich are playing Reading. I'm at Charlton. And while I was at Charlton, said, listen, it's Deadline Day. We haven't got time to get to the medicals and do all of that. In Norwich, you have to go to Reading. So I went to Reading and I literally signed upstairs at Reading. I signed for Norwich from West Brom, but in the boardroom of Reading, Reading Stadium. So crazy time, and it's the things that you have to do at the time, because at the time I was ready to move. The only way it could have been done is do it at Reading. So a crazy day, crazy deadline day.
Yeah,
just
amazing.
one of my stories.
Yeah, no, incredible stuff. So nerve-wracking, I presume, as well. Does that mean as well that you didn't have the requisite sort of medical and fitness test that you had to go through? They just trusted what they could see in front of them?
Well, no, we did, some of the medical stuff, of course, and just the fitness, everything wasn't done. But the reason was the day before, I was traveling to Charlton. We were playing Charlton in the Premier League at West Brom, and I was supposed to be playing at Charlton, so everything was fine. But they did all the medical side of it, literally at Reading Stadium. So it was a crazy evening just to try and get the deal done.
Rob, just want to quickly ask you while we got you as well about your former club, Nottingham Forest, completed a deal for Gio Reyna. Is that a move that excites you?
Yeah, absolutely. This excites me because rewind back a few years, maybe 3 years ago, Gio Reyna was one of the brightest young players at Borussia Dortmund. And he has been, they still recognize him as that, but he is a quality player. He likes to play in that number 10 role, will dribble, will move, will create things. But when Haaland was there, he played with Haaland. Bellingham, when Bellingham was at Borussia Dortmund, he played with him. And he was regarded in that manner as, this is one of our brightest young stars. So I like him. Nottingham Forest have got a great deal here. They've signed a top player. I would just love for his potential and Nottingham Forest potential to just click, because this is a really good move. It excites me because I think he could be really, really good.
Absolutely. Rob, I'm sorry that we don't have longer to speak to you. Well, we can go on for a lot longer than this, but we're going to have to cut it short. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
No problem.
Right. Not only is it transfer deadline day today, it's also the opening night Premier League darts, isn't it?
Oh, I like that dance. You're very excited. I'm very excited. We're putting our guests up against each other on the hockey throughout the day. Now, first up, have a look at this. It's these two. Let's hand over to our master of ceremonies, Johnny McCann.
Yes, welcome back to Sky Studios London, where we're not only counting down to the end of the January transfer window, we're also counting down to the start of the Premier League darts, which starts tonight live in Cardiff on Sky Sports. And we're going to have our own wee darts challenge here today, the Nang Dart Challenge. And it's time to meet the players. Please welcome Joby, I just can't get enough, mag enough, and Jody, the midfield machine, Morris. And it'll be Joby to throw first. Game on. .45.
Solid.
Another 45.
Straight fives there. Killing me. Not that one.
43, and that is a total of 133.
Consistent.
Yeah. That's a 4. So don't mind this. 14. And an 18. So 36. Not bad. 38. Let's go for it. .51, and that gives you a total of 125. Joby, you just beat him by 8. Happy with that 133? How do you think that'll do for the rest of the day?
I think it'll hold up, definitely. Disappointed didn't hit a treble 20, I've got to say. I was quite consistent, but the straight ones and the 5s killed you, do you know what I mean? He was a little bit more scattergun, but still got the job done, didn't you?
Johnny, you must be happy enough. You were nervous there.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't thrown the dart since I was about 17, so I was just happy all 9 landed, to be honest, because if the cameras were rolling in the warm-up, you'd have seen there was a couple on the floor.
Well, we've got to make a mention of Johnny No Maths McCann, who was using his phone to do the addition there, but we're trusting he got it right. Congratulations, Joby.
Well, I'm glad that you couldn't see where all those darts went on the shot there, so no, happy enough with that. I've got to say, I got warmed up after that, and I think that will get beaten. I did want a treble 20, I ended up with a treble 1.
The big treble 1.
Yeah, which you don't want.
And Jodie, were you really nervous? More nervous doing that than you were walking out at Stamford Bridge or wherever?
Yeah, I mean, I was just disappointed with my facials, and if you could see the trajectory in which I was throwing was a lot different to how Joby was throwing it as well. I think I had to go slightly further with having to aim up in the air. So I was pleased all 9 landed, as I said. I was pleased.
Well, we were pleased to have you with us today. Thank you very much indeed. It's been a real pleasure, hasn't it? I'll tell you what. We've got managers galore coming up this afternoon. We're going to be around the grounds as well. But the big news that has dominated deadline day actually came from the world of Formula One this morning.
Yeah, because we brought you that breaking news that Lewis Hamilton is joining Ferrari for the 2025 season. So he'll drive next season for Mercedes, then go to Ferrari. Craig Slater will be back to bring you up to speed with that deal, plus all the transfer news as well on the way next.